secure storage and access control represent the final layer of protection for investigation records. Collecting evidence is only one part of a professional investigation. Investigators must also ensure that the information collected remains confidential, protected, and available only to those who have a legitimate reason to access it. Investigation records often contain highly sensitive information, including personal allegations, witness statements, employee information, and evidence that may affect an individual's employment. If these records are improperly stored, disclosed, altered, or lost, the organization may face serious consequences, including challenges to the investigation's fairness, claims of privacy violations, or allegations that evidence was improperly handled. The fundamental principle is that investigation materials must be stored separately from normal employee personnel files. Investigation records should not simply be placed in an employee's regular HR file, because in many jurisdictions, employees may have rights to inspect their personnel records. A separate and confidential investigation file should be maintained to protect the integrity of the process. Access should always follow the need-to-know principle. This means that only individuals who require the information to perform their role should have access. Typically, this may include the lead investigator, designated HR professionals, legal counsel, and specific members of management who are responsible for decision-making. Confidentiality markings are also important. Files, folders, and electronic records should clearly indicate that they contain confidential investigation materials. However, investigators should use discretion when labeling files. While the file should be identified as confidential, unnecessary details such as the names of the complainant, respondent, or the nature of the allegation should not be displayed where unauthorized individuals could see them. For physical records, such as handwritten notes, signed statements, or collected documents, organizations should establish clear physical security controls. Documents that are not actively being reviewed should be stored in secure locations, such as locked cabinets, secure rooms, or dedicated evidence storage areas. Access to these locations should be restricted, and organizations should maintain controls over who can enter these areas. Good physical security also requires accountability. Access to restricted storage areas may be controlled through methods such as employee identification badges, electronic access systems, or visitor logs. Organizations should be able to determine who accessed the storage area and when that access occurred. Key and lock management is another often overlooked area. Where physical locks are used, organizations should maintain proper control over keys, including tracking who has access, maintaining key registers, and periodically reviewing security arrangements to reduce the risk of unauthorized duplication or access. Digital investigation records require an equally strong level of protection. Modern investigations often involve electronic evidence such as emails, chat records, digital recordings, and forensic copies of devices. Unlike physical documents, digital files can be copied, modified, or transferred quickly, often without obvious signs. Therefore, digital evidence should be protected through appropriate technical safeguards. Encryption is one important measure because it ensures that information cannot be understood without the correct authorization or encryption key. Access control systems should also be implemented to restrict electronic access. Rather than allowing broad access to shared folders, organizations should use permission settings to ensure that only authorized individuals can view or modify investigation records. Investigation materials should also be stored in dedicated secure environments rather than ordinary workplace computers. Saving sensitive evidence on general devices creates unnecessary risks, including accidental deletion, unauthorized access, or automatic backups being distributed beyond the intended audience. Where appropriate, investigators may also use integrity verification methods, such as digital fingerprints or hash values, to confirm that electronic evidence has not been altered after collection. This provides additional confidence that the file reviewed later is the same file that was originally obtained. Beyond technical controls, effective records management requires strong administrative procedures. Every investigation file should maintain appropriate tracking records showing who handled the evidence, when it was accessed, where it was stored, and any movement of the material. These records support the chain of custody process and demonstrate that the organization treated evidence responsibly. Digital systems may also provide audit trails that automatically record access activity. These logs can show who opened a file, when it was accessed, and what actions were performed. Such records can become important if questions arise about confidentiality or evidence handling. Organizations must also establish retention and disposal procedures. Investigation records should be retained according to applicable legal requirements and organizational policies. Once the retention period has expired, disposal must be conducted securely. Physical documents should be destroyed appropriately, and electronic records should be permanently deleted using methods that prevent recovery. Most importantly, investigators should remember that every action taken in relation to evidence may later be examined. The way records are stored, protected, accessed, and eventually disposed of may become part of the evidence, showing whether the investigation was conducted fairly and professionally. Secure storage and access control are therefore not administrative tasks, they are essential safeguards that protect the credibility of the investigation, the privacy of participants, and the defensibility of the final outcome.